Ну что, начинаем?
Все готовы?
So, shall we start? This is Andrey Hitrin and Alexander Fedorov. We want to present DBeaver, PostgreSQL IDE, and Debugger with an open code, source code. DBeaver is developed from 2011. The project is started by Sergey Rieder. He's here in the hall. It was opened at open source GitHub. The community started to develop rapidly. Now we have about 800,000 users, and according to the objective data for January, we have 150,000 downloads of distributives from the official website. There are also other possibilities to get the product. We have more than 100 countries, and our users are the developers, DB, analytics, servicing, different roles. Today in the project we have 5 general developers and 35 helpers from other countries supplying us by features or fixes. We have also translators. Everything is translated to Russian. We have Chinese translation, French and German. There are also some attempts to translate it into other languages, but they are chaotic. How it's distributed? We have two main versions. Community edition. The whole edition is at open source. You can build it by yourself. And we have enterprise edition. It's not free of charge. How to get it? Of course, you can represent yourself as your students. Tell this to Tatiana, and you will get a free copy of Enterprise DBeaver. And now you can also purchase it, or you can win it. How does DBeaver work? We have a module structure, and on the example of Community Edition, you see the core that defines the model of access to metadata. It's realized on the basis of Eclipse, and we will speak a bit later about it. There are different visualizations, vendor-specific functions, and debug, for example. And of course, we have the support of export to Office formats, support of version control, and some other extensions. A couple of words to Eclipse platform. Why did we choose it? It's a very good platform, and I would rather say that at Java, in this class, this is the best platform. It's older than 20 years. Our basis is on the base entities of this platform. We have a workbench. It's built on the basis of SWT, and it allows the Java to look naturally in different operation systems, frameworks. It's not the slings like look and feel, but it's represented on a great scale. But common team files, folders, debug, and team framework that we used. DBeaver core uses some extension of the platform with the support of Postgres. How can we install DBeaver? You can install it through Windows, Linux, Mac installation tool like Eclipse RCP, and you can install it as a set of plugins for certain Eclipse pack if you use it, like for Java development, Eclipse C++, and we have a standard Eclipse IDE Marketplace where you can download the distribution of the program. I would thank our colleagues from Express for their help, because the most functions are represented. You can download them and use them. We're supporting the creation and overlook at metadata with download, analysis of data, analysis of databases, editing of result set that is also developed with export, import, and filters. And we also support SQL development. It's not the best solution, but still it's one of the standard ones. Now I invite Andrey, who will tell you about the specifics of Postgres support. Thank you, Alexander. I hope you can hear me. My voice is the voice of the real developer, open source developer. And along with the universal functions, we have vendor-specific functions that are specific for Postgres, and we will show you two of them and one live. This is the Debugger, pgSQL, the block manager, and we have also managers of sessions, utilities for vacuum, for backup. These are the vendor-specific parts of the program that are realized for Postgres. We did not try to make slide for one slide for each function. We gathered all functions together, and you can see here dialog windows for reserve copying. In the right down corner, you can see the plan, the navigation tree. Because we are working at the open source, you can download it right now and take a look at how the main elements are. And I would rather speak about special elements. One of the essential is the writing of code and debugging on the language PGSQL. This language is like ADA, if you know what I mean. It's an extension to Postgres. It should be installed. Additionally, there is not only pgSQL, but there are many other languages who can be also downloaded. Python, Java. Java is not the best realization for Postgres, but still it is used, and Perl is also used broadly in this framework, and PLTQL. We would also like to take a look at it. Perhaps is there someone who uses it? Still one person. So there are also experimental languages. They do exist, they do operate, but they are only experimental, scientific. But the general and the beloved language is the PGConf is led by every procedure. It's not compiled in the native code or in bytecodes. It's introduced in the syntaxes tree that's in the memory of the system, and everything is ran by the same SQL that is in the code. So your code is integrated, but still there are some drawbacks. There is absence of modules. The headers are collected from metadata, and the procedure extensions for pgSQL SQL are the most popular for Postgres, and we realize debugging in the first line for it. What are the debugging procedures? The old one is the server messaging. They are introduced into the log. They modify the code. You can collect these messages and modify it. Listen notify is the typical mechanism with the asynchron messaging. We can modify the code, and by use of notify, we can collect the information or the debugging messages and understand then what's happening in the code. The next instrument is plugin PLDBG API. Is the interactive debugger that doesn't demand for any network protocol or change in the core of Postgres. It's just an extension. And there are also other means like files, pack of TRS tables, and through transactions or extensions for other user possibilities. So, and other means. I would like to speak about the debugging with help of plugin. I would like to say that DBeaver is not hatching anything combined with server side. You need to install the plugin by yourself. It's very easy. It's made by the community. It's open. It's accessible on the GitHub, on the SQL. You can just receive it and build it up as a standard extension, install it into the server, add to the library, start server, and then create it. Then you're ready to work.
Couple of words about debugging, not to educate you about it, but to explain you what is going to happen when we run a debugger inside DBeaver. Debug, well, when developing this plugin, we based on the maximum that we're not going to change the network protocol. We're going to interact with our clients through PGConf. We have two back-end processes. One is the debug process and the other is proxy. The client is connected to proxy and then it runs debugger. Stop completion, step-by-step completion, and so on. The one in the dark rectangular is the debugger, and in fact the debugger is integrated into the process being debugged, and the code is run line by line, and then it checks the control point and whether we have a proxy or not, or whether we need to receive a command from the debugger or not, and proxy decides whether we're going to step in, step out, and other things you probably know about debugging. An important thing, there are two big types of debugging: local point of stop debugging and global point of stop point debugging. Well, here I will describe various scenarios for initiation. The local breakpoint means that it is localized. It means that a specific client is going to debug a specific point, and you can put 5 breakpoints, and the procedure will run up to this breakpoint and then stop. But when it reaches the breakpoint, the procedure needs to inform the client that it reached the breakpoint. It is notified to do that. If you used this software, you know that there is a notify server, and in access format it notifies of a port that may be used to connect to the client. Another thing is the global breakpoint. Using the global breakpoint, the debugging element can connect to the required procedure that it is connected to the trigger, to the job that operates in the background. You do not know what is going to appear the next second, and you can select a specific procedure that will be related to this breakpoint, and the client can initiate the procedure to wait till this breakpoint and then proceed. Here we have a small screenshot how it looks like inside Eclipse. We actually can show it to you live when we will reconnect the sources. In Eclipse, workspace is organized in form of prospects, and we have a debug prospect perspective. And there you can see all the views and the way this workspace is structured. Here you see the standard workbench. To the right, you see variables and breakpoints. And to the left, you see the tree in the standard view of Eclipse IP. Eclipse, in effect, was initially developed as Java. And, well, maybe it looks bizarre for Postgres debugger, but you can see the target here. Then it is followed by thread. Luckily, we have only one of it. And then we have elements of stack. For every element, you can view variables, their values, and then you have the navigation to source. You use the navigation tool and the debugging information. That is it. And here let us look at the case. Andrey is going to present it. Let us look at what we're going to debug. Well, selecting the case, we were looking for something rather simple without an ambiguous number of tables and schemes, because it is difficult to explain it. So we selected this short example, short case for debugging using histograms. And here in this case, it builds a histogram by values. There is an argument that is the basis for histogram, the top and the bottom borders. The top query is select tuples from PG class. PG class is the main table, and it builds the histogram in length by tuples. Well, it is not very functional, but it is simple to see this function here. And well, you can look at this code and use it for your histograms. It uses type histogram, one aggregate histogram, and operating functions. There are interim calculations, and they use a number of sets of variables, and we use them for debugging, basically. Now we will try to reconnect to another and use another source. It is not very easy with Moscow State University infrastructure. By the way, as we are reconnecting, I would like to announce you that for the best question will win an award, a chocolate elephant, so please be active with your questions. The question is off the microphone. Please wait for a moment. Please introduce yourself. Kozlev Valery. We know that in DBeaver there is this beautiful tool related to locking. As you are taking your time to reconnect, could you please say a couple of words of it? Well, actually, I have a whole presentation on this tool, and well, I'm going to tell you more in terms of my presentation. So, as you can see, it is truly live. No jokes. So, what do we have here? Here's the perspective of DBeaver. Here we have an Eclipse package installed, and here we installed additionally the functions to work with this tool. We pre-configured data source. It is quite remote. We reach it through SSH, and here we are going to find the function to be debugged. It is here at the bottom. We open it. Here it is. We see the source of the function. Postgres has an interesting specificity as to the header, and it actually not very convenient because the debugger receives lines without header. So we have right now a possibility to cancel header to have the compatibility in numbers of lines. Here we debug it in SQL and we launch this system that Andrey beautifully explained. And here we switch from the prospect of the program to the prospect of debug. Here are our variables, step, and now let's run step into. Shortcuts are working. We can do it through menu, but now I'm going to just search through it until we reach the internal function. Here we are looking through the lines, and here you can see we're in an internal function that has different variables in this frame. It has actually different variables in different frames, and this plugin, well, here we frankly present you everything that we took from the server, and if something's wrong, something is wrong there. Now, right now we have only supported the method of breakpoint, and we can actually use breakpoint not only for the beginning of function but for specific line as well, and we're working on that as well. And right now at the beginning of the function we have local and global points of lock. GitHub has all that I'm showing you now. I run step out, F6, I go on top, and I tell it that I'm finished with debugging. So that is how it looks in reality. So this is the classic experience of debugging integrated into the platform. There is a lot to be improved, so we are very much open for cooperation in GitHub community. Could you please go back to the slides? We're online. Great. Okay. So we all have experience of driving various types of computers, systems, but in any operation we come across a step when, well, everything's locked and blocked, and all the operators heard these words that the processor is down, everything stopped, and most likely it is because of locks. Well, in fact, locks are important for competition, but very often they're a headache. In PGConf, we're going to have a number of solutions, both presented on stands, booths, and during presentations for the systems that monitor logs. So they perform quantitative monitoring. They show how they are accumulated, and they basically show you that everything's broken down and the system is stopped. We in DBeaver implemented a plugin to structurally display the graph of logs. What is it? We take a pglogs classical table. You can see it at the bottom. For every line we have, in every line we can see a lookup for every object. Here you can see, for example, in one of the lines, the lookup corresponding to 17.012, and in red you see the pending process for the same object. Here is the actually example of interlock, because these two processes are waiting for each other. You can take pglogs, refresh it, and see this tree of interlocks. Here you can see, well, the same content of the same table presented in a format of a tree. You can see the same elements, tuples, relations, pages, and granted or weighted of this object. The tick is to the right. In the right part of the screen you can see the graph. The current line is corresponding to the table which is selected, and we see who is waiting for this session and what the session is waiting for. The square in the right enables us to kill this session, and then we will see how it is going to move forward. So this is a plugin to visualize interlocks. It is very convenient for both developers and those who monitor interlocks, and well, it is very much in use by DBeaver users. Well, deadlock, well, it is always post-mortem analysis, so probably you will find it in the server log. Here, well, maybe if you're lucky you can see deadlock here, but we have never actually displayed it because this is actually a system error, and Postgres identifies deadlocks itself, kills the wrong session. We have a slide on our plans where open source developers, and sometimes people come up with ideas like, I've invented a great language for marking, could you please help me with this project? I'm going to I need to submit it tomorrow. We would love to do that very much, but we do not do that every time because we have families, we have our near and dear, and this great language for marking, well, it can wait. And this, so we have way to present the tree in DBeaver, and we are thinking about creating a beautiful visualizer where that Postgres users could use in order to see their plans with markups corresponding to different levels of assessment. And as DBeaver is a multi-platform and multi-base client, this function is very much in demand. A lot of users ask for it. Do you have it in any way? In fact, yes, we do have it already. You can take a table and drag it. But if you drag it from Postgres to Oracle, then the inconsistency between two systems will actually make the process down. In DBeaver, in fact, we have an interesting function of converting the data. I'm not calling it migration. Migration is a more responsible thing. It is a different thing. But converting is transferring data from one database to another DB with a loss of information. So it will be either cutting or adding. But for some cases, if the production does not have strict responsibilities in front of the customer, this function may be very much convenient.
I'll speak more about our plans. Now we have the user management roles. feature, and it's a great feature for the new users. It's well represented, and you can see the users who have access or don't have any access. And we are also planning to make the extension for role-able security, the policy creation of policy, and investigation of the policies. Now we have it only in the toolbar, so it's not appropriate. And the long plans, beloved by everyone, is great monitoring and reports on availability. Nice graphs with retrospective. So these are our plans. I think in the beginning our slide was not so feasible in the topic of the tickets or distribution of our product at GitHub. You can like us there, you can put stars or anything you want for any tickets that you find more or less interesting. And you can then follow the realization. Perhaps we will take a look at the realization and integrate it. Yeah, with great pleasure. Thank you, Andrey. Thank you, Alexander. Perhaps you have some more questions? We have enough time for it. Aksionov Alexei. I have a question about global lookups. If there are many lookups in several streams, how can we debug it? Can we find the defined stream? Yes, the global breakpoints. Global breakpoints. Yeah. Global breakpoints are global for it can be only one global point. If you want to track the second global breakpoint, you will receive the information that the global breakpoint is already defined. There are many executed processes. They all just stay. Please don't use it in production. Yes, we can provide PID of the stream in the deadlock, but one PID, certain PID like 8, 9, 1135 will stop and the others will go through. Please pass the microphone to the right. My name is Alexei. Numbers of lines. Can you make it the same as in backslash when the number is stated with begin or with other limitation? Eclipse has no limitations in numbers, but we have a problem here. Perhaps it was not stated. Our server is providing the number, so for storage of debug information without any header. We tried different regimes to realize this feature. We tried to make it in the client, but it is the solution under discussion. Therefore, now we're opening the editor without any context of debug together with header, and if we see the contacts, it's opened with header. I was just suggesting to get rid of the numbering of lines like /sf_sql. Perhaps you know it. Perhaps Andrey can help us. This realization presupposes use of a small AI because it's not stored anywhere. This means if I want to generate it, I can generate it as I want, and the comparison of two texts is not so clear. I can make it, I can take a look at your request. So it was my request preliminary, but as the other request, Thank you. And my second question is whether you plan the integration with pre-profiler, PL profiler. Yeah, we've thought about PL profiler a lot, but PL profiler and its realizations until today, they were also supposing some outer communications with servers from out of the server process. I have received a Postgres patch, a very interesting patch that can give the name to the other process, but now we will think about this extension inside of the DBeaver. It's also the matter of discussion right now, but if you have some suggestions, we will take a look at it. Thank you. Hello, Pavel Luzanov. Thank you very much for your product and for your work. My question is, you told that you have a community and enterprise versions. What are the differences between them? And how do you earn your money, actually? Because your activity in the field of Postgres, is it represented in enterprise, or it's just an enthusiastic way of work? Thank you for this question. These were the nice words. Okay, what are the differences? Enterprise version has another function. It works with several NoSQL vendors. It has also offline mode of work, because it's oriented on corporations who have the limited access to internet, to outer net. Everything that is downloaded, like drivers, are also pre-included into the version. It has also extensions like export to Microsoft Office formats and others. So speaking about Postgres, as for today, they are practically the same. Everything that is in community is also in enterprise. How to earn money? We sell enterprise. Of course, we would rather wish to sell more, but still we're existing. And speaking about Postgres, we are making this on a voluntary basis. I don't know how it will be developed. It depends on the interest in the community, on the interests of people who want to take a look at the certain functionality that they pay for. And so you're working with the closed companies who are buying enterprise, not to install some new additional drivers. So as a rule, yes, all the banking sector is not a part of the internet as many other companies. So offline regime is a must for them. Thank you very much. Are you the Russian enterprise? Russian development? Yes, Sergey Rieder is the head of our Russian enterprise, Russian development. He's the author and composer of first sets. So, can we contact you in Russian? Or in Russian? Yes, it's okay, but please think about the citizens of other countries. I'm not interested in the GitHub community, in the non-Russian GitHub community. But if you want to discuss something in community, so we start and we suggest to use the undead English language in the American revision. So, in the revision, actually. So, but it's also okay, you know, it's Latin in medicine and English in computers. You told that in the enterprise version you're betting the drivers. We're trying just to take a look at the license agreements and not to violate them. So, do you ban MySQL? Yes. because we encountered one problem, because it cannot be bundled in any way. Yes. Thank you also for this question. Perhaps you need to check it. You can write us also. But we're not a subject of control from the regulators, but it will be. When they will eat you first, they will come to us. No, we also did not have any visits of such kind, but we were thinking about this. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's applause. Thank you very much.